Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today for our Women's Philanthropy Board Roundtable highlighting the Arboretum at Auburn University. I'm Mary Elizabeth Bukai, for those of you who don't know me, and I serve as Assistant Director of the Women's Philanthropy Board. For any of you who might not be familiar with WPB and our work, we are an educational outreach and fundraising arm of the College of Human Sciences at Auburn University. And this is our 17th virtual educational program that we've hosted just this spring. We've covered a whole range of topics, and we have even more exciting programs coming up soon, including the first ever world's largest virtual tailgate for those of you who are missing tailgating this year. So we'll tell you a little bit about that at the end of the program. We are delighted to have with us today Morgan Beatles, who's the director of the Davis Arboretum at Auburn University. Morgan grew up in the heart of Auburn, and she received her undergraduate degree in horticulture and master's in landscape architecture, both from Auburn University. She worked in the private sector as a junior landscape architect for PBR in Hawaii and as a residential landscape designer for Creative Habitats Landscaping before accepting her position at Auburn in 2016. Under her supervision, the Arboretum has seen countless improvements, a significant rise in visitorship, and has a greater presence on campus and in the surrounding community. Before taking the position at Auburn, Morgan designed and built Opelika's Stern Park for the Henry J. Stern Family Foundation, which was donated to the city of Opelika upon its completion. In 2017, she moved to Opelika, where she soon became highly involved in the community. She currently serves as vice president of the board of directors for O Grows at Opelika. She's Opelika's representative on the Career Nature Preserve Center Board of Directors and is a graduate of Opelika's 20 Under 40 program. Thank you so much for being with us today, Morgan.
Well, thank y'all for having me. I'm excited to talk with everybody today. So have most of you been to the Arboretum ever recently? No? That's okay. Look, I'm okay with that. People refer to the Arboretum a lot as this hidden gem in Auburn, and I'm just like, how are we a hidden gem when we've got so much frontage on College Street? But I always enjoy meeting somebody that's never been here before because it's a new experience. We even have a professor teaching out here that had never been, and he was excited that he hadn't because through stay at home and all of that, him and his wife were able to kind of find this new treasure in town for them to explore. So if you haven't ever been, I encourage you to come out. If you have been, but it's been a while, if you haven't been in the last 2 to 4 years, come back out. We've made a lot of changes. We're going to keep making changes. In the public garden world, if you're not growing, you're dying. And we're just trying to continue growing and improving for the community. So I've got a PowerPoint presentation that's going to kind of outline who we are, what we do, and give you couple virtual tours of the Arboretum. The first one will be the Arboretum through the seasons with some drone footage that we've gotten. And the other will be kind of some new exciting things that we're working on since all of this has started. So I'm going to share my screen. There it is. From the beginning. All right, Davis Arboretum. Sorry, did I mute it when I muted myself? Sorry.
Audio.
So that is our video, kind of giving a virtual tour of the Arboretum through the seasons. Some fun, quick facts about the Arboretum. We're the smallest garden in the SEC, which means, I just did a kind of a research of all of the SEC colleges and the ones with gardens. Only 2 don't have gardens that are considered botanical gardens or arboreta. And one of those is Ole Miss, which has a medicinal garden. And the other is, I believe, Florida, and they are working on getting one. But we're the smallest garden in the SEC, right behind Texas A&M. They started their garden in 2014. We're one of the oldest gardens in the SEC, so us, Alabama, and Vanderbilt are all kind of are right there near each other in, it's not Vanderbilt, it's University of Tennessee, but 1963, 64, and 65. So this just shows us that Auburn University had a dedication to the preservation, the display, and the information that these plants had back then when it was barely happening for a lot of other colleges. We're the only garden, though, in all of the SEC schools to have accredited collections. And so what that means is that we have these collections through the Plant Connections Collections Network and the American Public Garden Association, that we have the scientific information, we know where the plants came from, we know who the mom and the daddy plants are, but they're a holding of these, conservation worthy plants, and we're the only one that has one. We're also in the process of becoming a level 4 arboretum, which is the highest rank that an arboretum can be. Originally, we weren't allowed to seek level 4 status because of our size, but they've since changed some of the rules because we pack a lot in a really small package. So there's a lot going on here. We're also the home to the Alabama Plant Conservation Alliance, which is a task force of like-minded individuals that go out into the field and are preserving and collecting and propagating rare and endangered plants of Alabama. Alabama ranks number 5 in biodiversity in the entire United States, behind Texas, California, New Mexico, and Arizona, and those all rank 1, 2, 3, and 4 up there in land size. Alabama is 32nd in land size, but 5th in biodiversity. And so there are a lot of different species throughout the state. And I think there's 147 plants listed on the endangered or threatened list. But in general, the Arboretum is a collection of native plants of Alabama and the southeastern United States. So although we do have a few plants here that don't fit that mission, those were planted before the mission was actually pretty, clear cut and straightforward. You saw at the end of the video, we are under the College of Science and Mathematics. We fall under biological sciences, and this was back, I guess, in the 80s. So the Arboretum used to belong to botany. And then when botany shifted, when they restructured things, they shifted botany out of the College of Ag, and it went with biological sciences. So that's why a lot of people would think that we would be with horticulture or College of Ag, but this is why we're in the College of Science and Math, because it is more of a botanical collection, more so than a curation of or cultivation, as you would find in like horticulture or agriculture. In 2019, our native deciduous azalea collection was nationally accredited. This is our newest accreditation. And I was kind of talking when we were working through things in the beginning, trying to get some of the presentation going. Our fall plant sale is happening. It's a pre-order sale. And these are some of the Auburn azaleas that we have available at that sale. So these are blooms that we have. These plants are actually in the Arboretum right now, but these will be available on our sale. But we have over 1,000 different individuals of this collection. It's probably one of the most extensive deciduous azalea collections in the United States, right here in your backyard. In 2010, we were able to get our oak collection, the Quercus collection, accredited. It's part of a multi-site collection. And so what that means is that multiple gardens from around the United States and actually the world, BGCI is the Botanic Garden Conservation International. And this was a group of gardens worldwide that are tasked with conserving oak species, and especially the rare and endangered ones. Patrick Thompson, who's worked here for 18, 19 years now, is highly involved in this, and Alabama has one of the rarest oaks in the world, the Quercus boyntonii, the Boynton oak. We actually have a couple planted right outside of the pavilion, but those and the Oglethorpe oak are two of the rarest in the world, and we're working hard to keep an eye on them in the wild, but also keep them on display here and in safeguarding. And a lot of that is due to the fact that acorns and the seeds from oak trees, like acorns and magnolia seeds, they're more of a soft, fleshy fruit, and they don't hold well in a seed bank. So we actually have to keep living preserves of these plants to be able to keep them going, their germplasm information, so that we can keep them alive and keep them from being endangered or extinct. The Arboretum is also home to 3 state champion trees. The state champion tree is the largest on record within the state. And so all you do is fill out an application, you call the State Forest Service, and they'll come out and measure your trees. And we had one, and it was the Georgia oak. But when I started, I was like, well, certainly we've got more than that. We've got plenty of big trees here. So we went down the list, and any tree that didn't have a champion assigned to it, we applied for. And so we ended up adding 2 more. We'll see if we get dethroned on those. I don't think there's too many people knocking down the doors to have state champion trees, but if you think you've got one, you should look into it. But then the Founder's Oak, which is right across from the President's House in the Arboretum, is an oak. It's a post oak that we believe began growing around the time that the university was founded. and they refer to that tree as a tree of historic significance. And the guys from the Forest Commission told us they believe that we have the highest concentration of notable trees in the state. So again, 13 and a half acres, all these cool things right here in your backyard. Sorry, I was reading the... it's the Alabama Forest Service. So it's Forestry Commission. Dale Dickens is he was in charge. I'm not sure if he still is, but he was the guy that him and another guy came out and measured our trees for us. And they think that we have the largest sweet bay, but ours is a multi-liter, and where it like splits off from the trunk where they have to take their measurements is where ours split, and they have to divide it out. There's a whole mathematical problem that they have to do in there, and we ended up just barely missing it because they had to reduce like 25% of the size of the tree. But even they said like they think that is the biggest one. There you go. American elm. There's a lot of them. I mean, Patrick found one. I think there's one like right around here. It's like the state champion river birch. Yes, anybody can apply for a state champion. And if you just Google like Alabama state champion trees, anybody can apply to, you can submit your trees. Takes them a while to get out just because the thing is just two guys covering the whole state. But they will come out and measure them for you. And they've got the ones, they'll give you some of the information for how they do the measurements. And they've got the, like, what the current champions are. So you can do some of that yourself, save yourself some time. Because I thought we had the biggest water oak. And then I looked at the one they had and was like, oh no, ours is a quarter of that size. The Arboretum has over 2 miles of walking trails. I took the pictures of these. We call this our portal project. We will do a lot of work with other schools on campus, other colleges, and these were some really fun building science projects. When I started at the Arboretum, I felt like we needed to make the most of every inch of space that we have. Because eventually, we're trying to expand. We'd like to expand, but how are we able to ask for more land or for more room if we're not using every viable inch? And so we came up with this portal project as a way to just kind of draw people deeper into the Arboretum. The original part of the Arboretum, people just think is the main loop that goes around the pavilion, around the waterfall, over the pond, and then back to the parking lot and around, when really that's only the first half of it. The Arboretum actually extends a lot further down towards the Church of Christ. We go all the way down to the old rotation. So we put these portals in as a way to catch someone's eye, draw someone's attention, and draw them through. And they were all built by building science students, which makes it fun too, because now we have students that have some sweat equity into the Arboretum, and they're invested into it for life. When you come back to campus for a game with your children, you can say, hey, look, little Sally, little Timmy, this is what I built. So speaking about the building science students, they're also, so we started this project back in spring of 2020. This was an old greenhouse that was plastic. We took this down and are pouring a pad right now and getting ready to put up a big glass greenhouse. But that stopped midstream when all the students went home for spring break. They were supposed to pour the next week, the pad. But, as with everything, we're just rolling with the punches. And the greenhouse will be used for safeguarding the rare and endangered plants that we get through the Alabama Plant Conservation Alliance. Safeguarding means, so every botanic garden, especially the ones with accredited collections, have to put their plants, especially accredited collections, have to put their plants into what they call safeguarding. And what that is you can't have all of your eggs in one basket. So when Irma and Maria went through South Florida, and they devastated that whole area in South Florida, there's a lot of botanic gardens down there that were just decimated. And some of them had accredited palm collections. But by having some of their plants in safeguarding, meaning they're being held at other gardens and kept alive by other gardens, they were able to start to rebuild their collections. And so that's one of the behind the scenes things that the Arboretum does that a lot of people don't know about. Number one is, the pitcher plants. Our carnivorous plant collection is one of the largest display bogs in the state, not naturally occurring. There's some very large bogs around the state, but it is one of the most thorough and largest display bogs in the state. And we have some really, really nice species and representatives of the species in our collections and holding. And that's because we help safeguard for Atlanta Botanic. If we go for another accreditation, it will probably be the pitcher plant collections, our Sarracenia collection. Huntsville Botanic has the nationally accredited Trillium collection, so we hold some of their Trillium in our collections as well to safeguard for them. We've done some Tiger Giving Day projects in the past, one of which was installing landscape lighting. I feel like it's an important aspect to just not only the aesthetics of the garden, but the increase in safety. And by safety, I don't mean like people jumping out and grabbing you, but more like not tripping and falling and breaking your leg while you're running through in the morning. We have a lot of joggers that come through. And it just adds some life. I mean, it's really just a beautiful place in the evening. All right, I will tell y'all that these are not our plans. Don't get too excited about these. I just like to use them as a placeholder. But we are working with campus planning on the creation of a master plan. We're working with the Office of the University Architect. We've also been working with landscape architecture students and architecture students on what we want, how we want to redesign things, how we want to display some of the different areas in Alabama of these Alabama plants. I mean, from stone outcrops to prairie meadows to, sand dune displays, that the drone video. I mean, I can tell you right now, like 6 different things on there that I noticed just watching it that are different from when that video was made at the end of 2018 to now, and some of the areas that we've expanded and displayed and really beefed up on those to help, educate people about, the different areas in Alabama and all of the wonderful opportunities that we have to explain this. I read a sign one time that said, "Alabama, the state of surprises." And I really like that because it truly is. So, I mean, you can't talk about everything without talking about, how this year's gone. When the stay-at-home orders came through and we all moved out of the office and we all went to our houses and hunkered down and worked from home, the Arboretum stayed open. We were able to stay open, and we did it in a way that I felt was respectful, that was understanding, but also a way that really helped the community. It wasn't, we really worked hard with our dean and with our marketing people on promoting being open without being like, "Hey, we're open. We don't care about anything. Come see us." But more of a, like, we're open if you need to get out, if you need to get out of your house, if you need to get out in nature, if you need to just take a walk and take a breath, come out here. You can be socially distant. We don't have, other than the office, we don't have any indoor areas. And we don't have any fences. So that was one of the good things about being a free open garden is the gardens that had to close during the pandemic were the ones that had a single point of entry and the ones that where you had to enter a building to enter the garden. And that's, it's a security thing. A lot of those are the gardens that charge. But we took our fences down the year I started. We cut down the rest of our fences. I wanted us to be open so that people would know that they would come in. And I think that we were really able to reach a larger market. There were a lot of people that were using us that had never been here before during that time. There are a lot of people that discovered us during that time. And, I think it opened up a lot of opportunities for us. We did have to cancel all of our events as everybody else did, but we're hoping, we'll see how things are in April, but every April we do the Auburn Azalea Festival. And it's just a great fun day. We do it the Saturday before Easter. And we chose that as a standing date because typically it's not A-Day, and they don't set the A-Day schedule until later in the year. But Azalea Festival takes about 7 months to plan. However, this year they had put it on A-Day, so we were trying to scramble in with that. But we weren't able to have the Azalea Festival, and we weren't able to have our Red, White, and Blueberry Bash. And we had only done that one year. We were really bummed about that one because we do a blueberry baking cooking contest. It does not have to be a sweet. It can be a savory. It can be anything. But we started doing a little red wagon parade inside the Arboretum because we figured it was somewhere safe. People could walk on the paths. They could go around. They could really decorate their wagons. But we don't have to shut down streets and hire police officers and do all of that. But just a fun, again, way to engage with the community. Azalea Festival, we usually have food trucks and music, and the folks from the local market will come and set up. So it's a great day. And that's when we hold our spring plant sale. This year was going to be different because we were going to focus less on the market side of things and more on the different outreach aspects that Auburn University has to offer. Some of the things for families and kids and all of what people in the community can do to engage on campus. And that was going to be the focus this year. The Museum of Natural History was going to be out there with some animals, the Crare Preserve. The Jewel Collins Smith was going to be out there doing some art projects with kids. The Goose Center was going to be out there doing some fun, like interactive things with kids. So we were pretty bummed it didn't happen, but at the same time, it's more about staying safe. But during all of that, we did see a need, and something that we're getting pretty excited about is that we have switched from being just this kind of passive space during the day that people don't know about. We are now a fully functioning active classroom. And so Auburn University students are learning out here. We had it was the first day of class, we had a freshman level biology class that had 200 kids in it. They were able to come and meet with their professor even just the first day before everybody went virtual, in a big open area that they were able to spread out. And so here's a fun quick video of that. So that was, the balloon is a landscape architecture class. They were getting some aerial images for some things that they're working on, but we're still working on that. And we're actually going to be dry run testing, having a Jumbotron in the Arboretum for spring semester classes, because they're just trying to, at least for some of these larger format freshman level classes, give these kids a collegiate experience and trying to find a way to do it that's safe, that makes sense, that's feasible, that's also not requiring professors to be in a classroom that only seats, they're supposed to seat 300, but they can only have 60 in there, and then having to teach that class 5 times instead of twice. And so we'll be doing a dry run of that in a couple of weeks, but we're hoping that this is something that we can get some more traction on, and a new generation of Auburn grads that will have their first experience in the middle of a pandemic having class at the Arboretum. And I think it's pretty, to me, it's super neat. It's super cool. I'm excited about it. I'm going to try to turn all these professors into rock stars. And who doesn't want to teach a lecture in front of a 16-foot screen? They have all been instructed to beef up their PowerPoints, though. I'm going to need it to be really awesome. Lights and sound, and they're the new celebrity on campus, which I think should happen. But we have some fun things coming up. I've mentioned our fall Auburn Azalea sale. I have the order forms. I will send them to the order form to Mary Elizabeth if you're interested, if you want to send it out to your listserv. They're due back to us by November 5th, and then we do a plant pickup, and it's over the course of 3 days. Like, all the plants will be in their individual orders. You don't pay until you pick up your plants in the event that some of them don't make them on the truck, but you pay when you pick up, but you will just drive through on the south end over by the old rotation. We'll load them for you, and you just scoot along with your tiger of a backyard. Then where else? Then we're the only place that you can buy these Auburn azaleas too. So, and all of the money goes into helping make improvements for us. But then we've also got Fright Night. So we have gotten the approval to do our Friday night movie. We're only doing one night this year. We're doing musical horror. And so we'll do a double feature of Little Shop of Horrors and the Rocky Horror Picture Show. All of the spaces will be clearly marked. You are required to wear a mask unless you're seated in your space with your people. If you're entering, exiting, moving, but bring a chair, bring a blanket, bring a picnic, come out, enjoy an outdoor movie, nice and distanced from other people. And then if you feel like this is something that you want to get involved in, then I encourage you to join the Friends of the Arboretum. I think we give priority access to our spring sale for the Friends of the Arboretum program, so you'll be able to come and shop the sale the day before it starts on Azalea Festival. And we do some other perks. I think if you sign up, you also get a free year of Better Homes and Gardens or Martha Stewart Living. The American Public Garden Association does that for us. And that's kind of a nice, quick overview, but paints a pretty clear picture of who we are, what we do, and I'm now open to questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
I thought I'd always heard there was some connection to Olmsted and Auburn. Is that not true?
If it is, I don't think it's here. He might have one. I don't know of it. I know there's that one house over on, was that Chihuahua Drive, that was done by a super famous architect. It kind of looks like a trailer, but it's this cantilevered house on Chihuahua Drive. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm not sure that I don't know of anything else with Olmsted here in town. I'm not saying that's not true, but okay, maybe that's it.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the tours that people can do within the Arboretum?
Yes. So
Personal fan.
we do a bunch of different tours. I mean, it really just depends on what your interests are. We'll do a tour for folks from the ages of 3 up to 93. So we've done in the past, we've done a fall fruits tour. We do a springtime tour. Spring's always beautiful. It's when the azaleas are blooming. I mean, spring here is really, top notch. And this past spring, I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better spring to everybody be stuck at home than the weather we had, but just the long, bloom times that we were able to have. We didn't get cut short with any frosts or, big heat waves. But really anything you're interested in doing, we're willing to give you a tour for. We have a stormwater management tour that we do for sustainability classes. And we usually touch on that on any tour. But yeah, we do a spring flower tour, a fall fruits tour, winter stick tour. Most of the stuff here is deciduous, so it's not too showy in the wintertime, but there's a lot of pretty stuff out here. I mean, the beauty berries are fantastic right now. Where does the funding from the Arboretum come from? Do you have intentional programs around birds and insects like butterflies? Our funding, so we get some funding from COSAM. We are on hard money from them, so our jobs are safe. I mean, not safe, but we're not every, the Career Preserve is on soft money, so they have to keep coming up with funds so that they can all stay employed. We do have hard funding from COSAM, and we get a small budget every year. It's about $25,000. The rest of it comes from plant sales, event rentals. We had to cancel a lot of weddings this spring. But plant sales, event rentals, we just try to donations, Tiger Giving Day, the Friends of the Arboretum program. 75% of our funding comes from in-house, from programs that we create. We charge for educational programs for school groups, but we keep it small, we keep it minimal. So we charge about $5 a head for the students, and we don't charge for teachers or parents. But that's where most of our funding come from. We don't have any, so I've given a program before on, is it called Nature's Bounty was what the title of it was, but it's attracting birds with native plants. I've given that before, but we don't have a specific one, but that doesn't mean that we can't tailor one for you like that. And we can also, if that's something that you're interested in, we partner a lot with the Museum of Natural History. So we work with them on our Bones and Booze program that we do in October. That was last year. We decided last year, luckily, that we're only going to do that program every other year because we just didn't want the community to get burnt out on it. But the Museum of Natural History is a collections museum, which means that they don't have their stuff out on display, let's say the Smithsonian. All of their holdings are in drawers and cabinets and jars and over at the vet school. But Bones and Booze was an event where we were able to bring all of that kind of out, and the anatomy and physiology lab at the vet school has some pretty cool stuff. And so there were all these skeletons of tigers and emu and llamas and horses and just the sharks and not sharks, but whales, and they got a whale rib and dolphin skulls. And all of this was just in a hallway over at the vet school. So we put it out and about in the Arboretum, and people could walk around. We had a lot of programs for kids for that. But with that, we can also include the Museum of Natural History folks. So you could really get like an ornithologist, like an ornithological, tour or program, like more in depth about the birds and the butterflies and the insects than you would get from those of us that kind of focus more on the plants. Does that help answer your question? Yes. And again, like we can tailor any tour or program to any group. I mean, we've done pitcher plant, like display bog programs where like we had some folks, some adults and some kids come out, and we did little mini bog displays in like a single planter that they were able to take home with them. I mean, I've done flower arranging with Dean's Leadership Council before. I mean, there's any kind of program you can think of that involves plants or being outside or native plants, like we're all in for. The fall azalea plant sale. So right now it's a pre-order sale. So right now all you have to do is get the order form, and I'll send that to Mary Elizabeth. You'll get the order form, just have that, email it back to, and it's got the information on it. Just email it back to me before November 5th. And then plant pickup dates are November 18th through the 20th. We are 13 and a half acres. Is there room to grow? I mean, yes and no. Yes. So the university owns the property where two houses used to sit next to the Church of Christ. We've asked for it. We've put in a formal request for it. We are not sure if that will, I don't know. It's well above my pay grade. I wish I could say, yes, do this, but the university has plans. I have heard recently that other people were asking for it. I'm not sure for what. The issue with that lot is that the sight lines coming out of it, you can't have a parking lot there because it sits in that curve at 45 miles an hour on College Street. So what could you possibly build there that people could come to without having any parking? Campus planning is on our side. They want us to have it. There's a lot of people that want us to have it. If we'll ever get it, I don't know. Isn't that right, Joanne? It's a $30 million question, right? But maybe one day, again, I feel like every time we try to ask for it is right at the time that something else big happens. Like we get a new president, and then we get our old president, and then a pandemic happens, and then I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, every time we ask, we've been asking for that land since 2013. So we're just going to stay the course and keep asking. It's going to be like a little hummingbird and just visit that as quick as I can every time. But that would be our only chance to grow. That would then make us, I think it's 2.5, that property's 2.5 acres. So that would put us right at 16 acres. Which makes us bigger than A&M.
I have a question about the native azaleas. Will they grow in prairie soil?
Maybe. I can give you recommendations. I'll have Patrick give you recommendations. The short answer is yes, if you amend the soil. We usually tell everybody to put pine bark down below, like some pine fine mulch in like below your hole as you're planting them. The deciduous azaleas they don't have a deep root system. They're more of a pancake root system is what we call it. So it's wide and shallow. And so if you just dig out some of that area and you put in, some kind of a soil conditioner, it should grow fine. It's all about conditioning that area. And we can give you more instruction on that, especially specific for that prairie soil's tough. You in Montgomery?
Pike Road, close enough.
Close enough. Hey, that is close enough. That stuff is tough. I mean, I've seen it tear houses apart. So
it will. It's like planting something in a pot because it is clay.
It is. But it's almost like planting it in like Play-Doh, and then when it doesn't stay moist, and then it dries out, and then everything just kind of cracks and crumbles around it.
And that's the thing about amending prairie soil. It'll stay amended for a couple of years, and then the prairie soil just eats it, and then you're back to nothing.
I'll talk with Patrick about it. I mean, because they're native and we found them in and around that area, I would feel that like some of them would have to do well down there.
But we do have streaks of sand around here, so they may be more in the streaks of sand than they are in the prairie. But I'd love to hear the information. I'd love to have some.
I can get more information for you on that. Absolutely. And if you'll just email me, my email's right here on the screen. If you just want to email me your contact information, I can get with Patrick and we can get back in touch with you and like really discuss this further. Because I'm sure he has an action plan for all of this. Oh, thank you, Brittany. Yes. So when things are nicer and easier and safer, I want everybody to come out for a tour. We're still doing tours now. Everybody has to wear a mask the whole time because we are surrounded by College Street and other streets. The ambient noise is kind of high. So we've always kept tours to groups of 10 or 15. Only because really any more than 10 people in a group, you can't hear one of us talking. And now, especially through the mask, it's harder. But if you're interested, if you've got a small group or if you have some family in town and you guys want to get together, we're always welcome to giving tours to anybody. It's fun to show it off on here, but it's even more fun to show it off in person. I'll introduce you to the snakes and all the other folks around here, and we've got some fun. We've named our water snakes. It's Reese Slitherspoon, and her babies are the Reese's Pieces. They do the water snake. It's a banded water snake, and they have a biomimicry where they can flatten their jaw out that makes them look exactly like a copperhead, if you don't know, other than the fact that they've got round eyes and these vertical lines on their jaws. But I've had too many people freak out on us about the copperheads, which we've never seen a venomous snake here, but we gave them all cutesy names so that way the kids won't be as afraid of them and they'll be interested in like looking at them. So look for Reese Slitherspoon, look for Justin Timbersnake and Hissy Elliott and Histina Aguilera and Snake Gyllenhaal.
My favorite part of the tour was the carnivorous plants. And if you request this, or maybe you do it for everybody, that Morgan or whoever is leading the tour, they cut the plant open and you can see all the bugs that are decomposing, like everything that the plant has eaten, or do you call it eaten?
They digested it.
But yeah, then you can see how many like little bugs are in the plant. It's really cool and gross, but cool.
It's so gross. It's so gross, and that the bug guts will stick with you and stay on your skin for a long. I cut one open the other day for a group, and it must have had like a vertebrate in it because I've never smelled one that smelled that bad. And and it stuck with us. Like you almost have to put diesel fuel on your hands to get that smell off. But I always like doing it too, because for every now and then, like a moth will fly out. And we're like, ooh, look, we saved a life. But the carnivorous plants are fun. You get to see, we've got Venus flytraps and all of that. That's a fun fact. The Venus flytrap, not from Venus, but is actually only found in a stretch of beach between North and South Carolina. It's about 100 miles long and probably about 10 miles wide, and is the only spot in the world that they are found. So there's a lot of fun stuff happening down here in the South. Okay, so his son did it. Thank you, Kim. That is, I did not know that. Every day.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
I do. One more. The kind of art thing that you showed us that you said was not the plans, it looked like a very formal looking garden. Are there plans in the future to take part of the Arboretum and make it into a more formal garden?
Yes, maybe. I don't know. We're still working through some of that. I mean, the short answer is yes. I mean, I feel like if we're gonna do like a display garden, we need to show off what a formal garden looks like and how you can create a formal garden with native plants. I don't know if everybody else was on the Zoom when me and Mary Elizabeth were talking about her making a hefty donation to the Arboretum in the future to name it after her husband, but doing a Japanese inspired design, but using native plants. So the short answer to that is yes. Like, I do want, like, that is something that we want in the future. I also know that, so all of that ag land from where our fence ends right there at the old cotton rotation, all the way down, like the hay fields and all that is part of the, like, it all belongs to College of Ag, and they're calling it the Transformation Garden, and horticulture's working on getting the funding for all of that. There is, in somewhere in that, an aspect of a formal garden with them, but they will probably use non-native plants, and so I don't see why you couldn't do both. And again, it doesn't have to be, 10 acres of a formal garden. I think even just a small nook. And honestly, what I think our plans are for the meadow display, the prairie meadow display, may end up being more of a formal garden feel without being, boxwood hedges and, terraces and all of that. We're still kind of working through some of that and working with campus planning on, what some of these needs and wants are. How much sunlight do the native azaleas need? It depends on the azalea. So some of them will take full sun, some of them want filtered sun, some of them want more shade. We have a list that I can send along to that kind of gives you the light requirements, and that gives you the sizes and all the information of like what each of these azaleas, what the end product would be. Are there any other questions? I got a question for you guys. I'll pose one to the group. If you could add one feature to a garden in this area, something like outdoors, what would it be? Would it be a formal garden? Do you think we need a children's garden? Do you think we need a meditation garden or a sensory garden? Like, what do y'all think would be a good, it would match with the university, but also be really, instrumental in the community? Yes, Joanne. You're on mute, Joanne.
There.
I would like to see, and I know space is limited, but if y'all could get those two adjacent lots where those homes used to be on South College, it would be great if you could have some kind of building built, and it would be for students who could come from, grades in public school, and they would have a place for a tour, not only of the garden itself on the outside, but you could talk to them on the inside. And weather sometimes I know is a factor, so I think it would be great if you could have some kind of structure there. I know you say there are a lot of weddings. That could be the plan B. If it's raining, they could have their ceremony inside, or the reception inside if they needed it.
I will say that because of the pandemic, we're rethinking our use of indoor space. And, I mean, all of campuses, everybody is. And when I thought I wanted a big indoor, like a place where the Museum of Natural History could display things, to have, like you said, a reception hall area, have offices. Now it almost more leans to a larger outdoor pavilion where we could have this, large screen, but where we could teach a big group of kids outside, almost like, have y'all been to Disney World or Universal, where you go and you watch like the live action Indiana Jones, and you are outside because there's people jumping and there's fire, and it's outdoors but in an amphitheater, but the whole area is covered? That may end up being more of the longer sustaining model of having people outside. I mean, trust me, I want the music. I want it all. I want the Welcome Center and the Nature Center and Tissue Culture Lab and a bridal suite and all of these things. But if we have to pick and choose, I feel like we're kind of digging our heels in now to say that we're part of this campus and we're an active part of this campus, while also being a resource to the community. But really, how can campus use us? When everybody else had to shut down, we were able to stay open. I think sticking with that moving forward, and making sure that we are an asset to the university in every aspect that we can be, is going to be more beneficial moving forward. The edible medicinal garden, I believe that is going to happen at the transformation garden. I will say I am not a fan of an edible garden. Please do not come out here and eat things. Do not pick stuff up. Do not eat things out here. There are a lot of plants out here that can make you really sick. And if you don't know what you're looking for, I do not want that I don't want that body count on my head. So please don't eat things at the Arboretum, unless it tells you specifically. Anywhere, really, don't eat things you just find in the garden. But it's hard because we do display some plants that have, poisonous, like the coral bean. If you eat enough of those, like, you'll get really, really sick. We have pawpaw trees, but so I'll pick on the one lady from my office. She's young. She's a new academic advisor. She's really hip. She likes to forage and do things. And she came out and told me that she came out and she found the pawpaw tree and it just was not good. And I was like, ugh, I know it's so mushy. And she was like, mushy? It was hard and bitter. I was like, did you take a picture of what you ate? And it was an Osage orange fruit. And yeah, thank you, Paul. That is the reaction that I had as well before I laughed in her face for a while. But, she didn't, that's not going to make you sick. I mean, it's really gross, but there are other plants out here that will make you sick. And so while I love the concept of an edible garden, please don't eat things here. And then they've redone that Garden of Memory. If you haven't seen that since it's been renovated, you really need to go. I mean, that's what a garden looks like when somebody invests $1 million into it. And it is very nice. And so Auburn has that. Yeah, so plants like castor bean and mole bean. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. So again, don't eat the plants at a garden unless it specifically says it to. I do like the idea of I did my thesis in grad school on sensory gardens. My mother teaches the blind. She's an O&M specialist. And it always just was something that resonated with me, is like, how do you make a garden engaging to somebody who can't see it? How can you make someone understand how beautiful a flower is if they can't actually see it? And how do you get them to engage in the space? And it's through using all of their other senses, using sound, using touch, using, all sorts of different, aspects of the senses other than just, again, don't taste stuff, but other than just, looking at it and being like, ooh, that's a pretty plant. So I love that idea of a sensory garden. Where is it? The Garden of Memory is right across the street from us. It's right across from the president's house on Lynn Morrison. Though we have a crosswalk on the back side of us that leads directly over to the Garden of Memory. And it is stunning. It really is. Facilities maintains that. They do a fantastic job. And again, like that's what a garden looks like when somebody invests $1 million into it. It was done between SGA and the master gardeners. The SGA was looking for somewhere to put a memorial wall for, students that had passed away, and they wanted to do it in Sanford Park, and that got shut down. And so they were able to take the Garden of Memory as it had been, because it was really swampy. I remember being in undergrad, taking up plants over there, and it was so swampy and mucky that one of the guys in class actually lost his shoe, lost a flip-flop. When I say lost, we never found it. It went into the quicksand and the muck of that kind of wetland area down there. And he never got his shoe back. But that has since been redone and renovated, and it's top notch. It really looks nice. But yeah, it's right there across the street from the president's house on Lynn Morrison. Let's see. And then the medicinal garden, back to that one, Paul. Tia, I believe they've got a space dedicated over at the Transformation Gardens for Tia and her medicinal garden. So hopefully that'll be coming back around soon. They're still working through those plans, but I believe there are plans to have that there. So yeah. And we work a lot with Tia. We're working any way that we can kind of tie all of these together is what I want to do. I believe more in working with other units on campus and with other colleges and programs than instead of just being in a silo of this is mine, don't touch this. I think there's a lot that we can do when we, collaborate with each other. And so, yeah, Tia is amazing. And so we like collaborating with her. We've talked with her through, different designs parts of it. So we'll see what agriculture comes up with for that, but that should be where that one's going. Medicinal plants is hard too, again, just keeping with the native plants. There's some that are easily used as medicinal, but the majority of medicinal plants are not going to be native to Alabama.
All right. Yes, Joanne, unmute.
This is not a question, it's a comment, but I don't want us to end this without me being able to say this. And I feel like Paul, my husband, and I know because of where we live right across from the Arboretum on South College. And I can say this, since Morgan has been in charge of the Arboretum, it's just greatly improved. So I just want to thank Morgan personally. Morgan, thank you for everything you've done. I know it's been a labor of love, and you've worked so hard, and your staff also.
Well, thank you, Joanne. It's easy when we got great neighbors like you guys looking out for us.
That's kind of you to say, but you deserve all the praise.
Well, thank you. And I have a great team. This is not done. I spend the majority of my time in this office coming up with game plans and doing the administrative stuff. Like, all the credit goes to my team. We just come up with an idea and we figure it out, and I do my best to say yes every time, see what we can do to make it work, but want this place to be great for everybody. I mean, I work hard to make sure that whenever I leave, everything, we don't all work forever, we don't all live forever, that whenever I leave it, I've left a mark on it, but then I've set the next person up to be able to carry it on and keep the forward momentum going. I mean, this place is too special not to be fully recognized. So we're going for crowning jewel, not hidden gem.
I love that. That's your new tagline.
It has been for a while. Auburn's hidden gem. I was like, we're not hidden. I'm not hidden. More frontage on South College than anybody else. I'm kidding.
That's fantastic. This has been great, Morgan. Thank you so much.
Well, thank y'all so much for having me.
This was wonderful. I thought I knew almost everything, but I've learned like a whole new set of information about the Arboretum today. So I really appreciate you sharing with us. And I will share anything that you want to send me. I'll share with the people that registered to attend today, and hopefully we'll get lots of those azaleas sold. And this is recorded, so if any of you would like to go back and watch this again, you can view it on our YouTube page. We'll have it up at least by Friday. You can view most of our other virtual programs that we've had this year on our YouTube page as well. And we've got a couple of really great programs coming up within the next couple of weeks. So next week, Wednesday at noon, we're having a program on the visual arts at Auburn University that's going to be led by the director of the Art Museum, the Jewel Collins Smith Art Museum. So we're excited about that. And then Monday the 26th at 6 p.m., we are having the first ever world's largest virtual tailgate. We're going to have lots of fun tailgate type things going on, and we'll be hearing from Andy and Jan Burcham, the voice of the Auburn Tigers, and his wife, who is an educator and philanthropist. So all of those events are free and open to the public. If you'd like more information about them, you can let me know or let Kim Walker, who's our director, know. She's down there. And thank you also to our other Carey Center team members, Brittany Branyan and Sid James, for joining us today. And I hope to see everybody at our future programs. Y'all have a good week.